frog said to the other frog, well, you better go get him. Two little frogs sitting on a log, one of them fell in. Last little frog, he sat and thought, good thing they can swim. Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn. Three little frogs sitting on a log, one burst into a grin. One frog said to the other frog, wonder what's got into him. Two little frogs sitting on a log, one laughed until he is red. Last little frog, he sat and thought, must have been something I said. Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn.
Strange.
All right, and we are live. Pip was down here at our feet leading some yoga to get us limber for the show here, so we're all stretched out. We've taken a deep breath. Sorry we did all that without you. You probably could have benefited from it too. Welcome to Jabber Jawn. I'm Nathan Moore. This is Kyle Hogg. This is Steve Moore, and we are at your service. There you go.
At your service.
At your service.
I used that line earlier today.
You did? To who?
I was a woman. That's about as far as I'm going to go.
All right.
I've been getting confused with women lately. I've had some weird things happening. Where I'm getting texts from one person, and because I'm foggy, I made a mistake and I couldn't see it, and I thought it was another person, and I texted them back. That can really get you into trouble.
Right, right.
Have you ever done that? Woo!
I'm sure I have.
Yeah, well, you know, and this time it was good because I'm not firing live rounds anymore. If you know what I mean. And, you know, and
What does that have to do with the text?
well, I wasn't saying anything wrong
Right.
to anybody, so it didn't get me into any real trouble. But
Right.
there would have been a day that could have gotten you into a little bit
Could
of
have
trouble.
gotten messy.
Yeah, not me, but somebody could have gotten into trouble. But how did we get here already?
And we're all, well,
I don't know. But I don't want. I told you I didn't want to talk about it.
Should we, should we drill down here or keep moving?
No, I think, yeah, I see some oil, but I think we ought to leave the area.
The dowsing rod is definitely wiggling.
Although I wouldn't mind hearing a Kyle story or two along that line. I bet you got one for
I've
us.
sent out plenty of wrong texts to wrong people.
Yeah.
And
Any of them funny? Any of them get you in jail?
it's funny if you can step back and look at it later. It's not funny at the time.
Perspective.
Yeah.
It's getting that distance to
After
get
the-
back. It's the hard
After all the
part.
feelings have calmed down. And,
Yeah, that's embarrassing.
it's always that, like, who the hell are you texting? And you're like, why are you saying that? I'm texting you. Oh shit, that wasn't good.
Well, that's exactly what did not happen here, so that's a good thing. It was all peaceful. But I felt like an idiot, but getting pretty good at that too.
I've got a lot of walking home from downtown, texting everybody how much I love them type texts that I get home like, oh crap, I'm just gonna throw this phone far into the woods as I can.
You know, that's an interesting point because it's a good thing they didn't have those phones when I was at your stage of human development, as you're describing those days when you're trying to get home from the bar. And if I'd have had a cell phone, I could have gotten into real trouble.
You never would have made it home.
Oh my God.
I'm just sitting here thinking about how I don't know why I went here, but I remember recently, because I've been drinking a lot less these days than I used to, and there was one time we all got together and we were drinking and stuff, and the next day I sent out a text. I'm trying to remember how it went. All I'm really thinking about is how, almost without fail, whenever I get together with friends and drink, I always wake up the next day and I'm sending apologetic texts. I don't know what it is about me that just...
For real
I'm not
things?
a mean drunk,
Right.
but I am something that makes me do stuff that makes me feel like I should probably apologize the next day. Like, I'm really sorry about last night. I hope everyone still loves me.
Yeah.
I had a friend on Facebook. I haven't seen the guy since high school, but he lives somewhere out west now. He must have done something and it got called out. He was on Facebook apologizing to people for what he said and stuff. I was like, dude, what did you say that was so bad you have to get on Facebook and
Right, that's
apologize?
pretty big.
Yeah.
I've never been that bad. I'm sure the community at large has heard about my behavior last night. I just want to issue a public apology.
Well, you certainly come by it pretty natively, I would say. But 'cause I used to say that it was the problem I had was I knew I had to call 8 people up and apologize, but I didn't know which 8. That is exactly the problem I would have. I'd sit around 10 o'clock the next morning drinking coffee trying to say, now what? How could I have said that? How could I possibly have? Because there's 4 people that were offended by that one line.
I can see
Of course,
that.
there's that little
This is
devil
before-
back up there at the time saying, go for it. You're good. You're good.
You're good. You got it.
You can offend 5 people with one sentence. That's amazing. Go for it.
This is before the group text where you can just get it
Oh,
all
yeah.
out in one fell
Yeah, that's what I'm
swoop.
saying. If that had a group
You had to
text-
actually dial people up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was a worker.
But also the bad thing was from memory. You had to remember who you were with.
Well,
But
there's
with,
where
with this, you're just like, well, I know who I sent it to.
Right,
'cause it's
exactly.
like-
Well, the initial thing, I wouldn't have known it if I hadn't looked back and said, oh, that isn't her name. That's another person's name. I just misread the name with my eyes. So didn't have my readers in. So, yeah, I would have, I could have offended 250 people at a time there.
When I was going through like the heated part of the divorce, where all the worst tension is, I meant to send somebody something about my ex-wife, like just getting steam off my shoulder, just rattle off this stuff. And my ex-wife writes back, "Was this supposed to be for me?"
But that's about as bad as it gets.
Yeah. And I was like, "Man, I'm sorry. No, it wasn't for you." She never said anything about it, but I'm sure she's reading it like, "This can't. He couldn't have been sending this to me."
I wonder if she ever thought you were devious enough to have done that on purpose. I mean, she wouldn't think you
Right,
would.
I don't
Or
know.
did you?
No, I mean, I was so embarrassed. I was like, "Oh man, that's terrible."
Do it.
I've been on the receiving end of missent texts.
Oh yeah, tell us a story.
I probably shouldn't even say it. I probably shouldn't.
Okay,
But
I understand.
I
that.
could,
You're laughing at it. It's
yeah.
gonna be a good story.
But you're gonna have to tell a version of it.
This
well,
is
one time
this
I
is not
did get
true story.
I got a picture from a friend who was obviously not intended for me. Let's just put it that way.
Oh,
It's like, whoa,
Ooh,
TMI.
too much information.
Nice dick.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. All right, moving on. This dowsing rod's wiggling here, but I feel like we should.
All right,
But I wonder what that is. What is that? That that latent desire to offend. Is that what it is?
I don't think so.
Is it? Because there's a part of me that,
I don't want to offend in terms of hurt.
right.
I want to see your reaction. I might want to test you. I don't know. No, yeah, I think.
Are we testing their love, the unconditional nature of their love for us?
Possibly, I think that could be an issue. But you might be just testing their native intelligence.
Wait a minute. So you'll be out with friends having a good time, and then just for some you reach a level, you'll just say something, and you'll get home the next morning and realize you said it you shouldn't have.
Yeah, that's probably a version of it.
Wow.
Yeah, that is one version.
I mean, because I say stuff that's not offensive. It's just too emotional and too.
Well,
They're like,
That could be
or
a
it could be
version
too,
of it.
or too personal.
right.
That's what it is. It's all right.
Too emotional could be it.
if you
No
get-
matter what it is, sadness, anger.
It could be too big a lie, and it also could be too much truth.
Right.
I mean, it's just a situational
Right.
thing. But if you just take it over the line, everybody knows where that line is. And sometimes when you get enough Jim Beam in you, you go over that damn line. You know exactly where it is.
But also, I can't tell if it's worse if they respond like, oh, no, we love you too, or I love you too, or if they don't respond at all and you think, man, they're really pissed at me.
Yeah. And then when you get to this stage, you don't even remember what you said. So you can't stand up and say, I didn't say it.
According to the producer, we're having some audio issues with your microphone. I just cut it off and cut it back on. Is he's saying he's intermittent, or he's
Very intermittent, yeah.
you want to wiggle over there the first input. Do you see it connected on the receiver?
Yes. I see it connected. It's just, it's like, just sometimes certain, like, I don't know if it's like a word he says or if his watch passes over. Something odd is happening. There's no.
He's been cussing a lot. Are you bleeping out all that stuff?
It's that new AI editor we have in there.
We just keep it going, and no one's really saying anything.
Okay.
I'm not sure that there's anything wrong. The problem is, and you're not the first person that's called me that. I am intermittent.
yeah. I'm over here in real life. It's happening as well.
I
Yeah.
am intermittent, and it's getting worse. I don't know what to do about it. But let's think about.
We love
that.
you anyways, unconditionally.
Well, you just there's less to love, because when you're intermittent, you're losing a little something here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's less to love, but you can love me just as much.
Right.
You don't have to wrap your arms around as much.
So, talking about apologies, just think how easy it is for us to apologize now. If we do something dumb, we can just hide in our room and apologize. Imagine you were like a cowboy at a bar or something, and you offended the whole group. Then you had to walk down and apologize face to face. Everybody, you had to pack your bags and get out of town. You just what happened to Kyle? Well, I think he was too embarrassed to come back and apologize. He moved over to West Branch.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of situations where it's difficult to get the apology in.
And not everybody feels like they have to apologize,
Right.
which I guess is something too.
And not everybody wants an apology.
Oh yeah, I hate when people come try to apologize.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, this doesn't make any difference. Forget about it.
Water off a duck's back.
Right. Even though
Not my first rodeo.
Even though I hate them for like a year. Never talk to me again. I don't even want to see your face.
I don't need an apology. You're dead to me, but
Do I know you? Oh my God. Look at that. That's what an apology will do to you, and knock you right out.
Pip and Salsa owe each other an apology every day. We other cat and her every night around 11. The game on.
Really?
Yeah, it's
After
like
all
it's
these
like
years?
a scheduled bout.
Unbelievable.
I almost feel like they're looking at their little watch on their paws, going, "All right, 1 minute."
I bet they are tuned into it.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of their day.
You could almost set your watch to it.
Does your pet seem to know when you're coming? Oh, you don't have a set time to come home, or do they know like when you usually get up?
I'm just always here.
Because I used to like, come home from work and like tiptoe up the steps, and they just be by the door looking. I'm like, do they know the sound of my car? How
They do know the sound of your car.
It's like,
Oh, definitely.
Dogs are super tuned into that. It's amazing. And the sound of the like with Percy, the sound of the UPS truck. He is. We were talking on Lex's porch the other night that it's such a self-fulfilling prophecy, but to Percy, that the sound of that UPS truck is probably like the sound of a giant mammoth or something. It's like this animal that attacks our house every day, and it comes and it stops, and this little minion hops off of it and attacks our house, and he defends the house, and without fail the person flees from Percy's defense, and it's this self-fulfilling prophecy that he has successfully protected
Right.
the house every time and time again.
He's amazing.
When I first thought it was like a eureka moment. I was like, oh, he like, to him, he's not learning that it wasn't a threat. He's learning that he thwarted the threat successfully. But boy, he hears that truck. We were just walking. We weren't even on our own territory. Just walking down the street the other day, and a UPS truck passes by, and Percy lunged at it. It was just like, with every other car didn't pay it any mind, but that truck rode by, and he was on it.
He was on that sound.
On that sound.
Isn't
And definitely, Catherine getting home, Percy can hear that from a mile
Right.
away.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So you didn't tell us that, and I not to bring up a sore spot, but your kitty.
yeah, to put the old boy to
I
sleep.
felt bad not knowing that, because I could tell you were sad, but I was guessing reasons. And so sorry about
Yeah,
that.
it was bad. The nicest vets in the world, though, Animal Hospital of Verona, they, gave me time to get myself together. A lot of hugs, a lot of nice talk. So it was. They've known all the pets I've had, so they've had to go through all the.
I was so sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry too.
And 1 year ago, my dad died today.
Oh wow,
Oh,
We're celebrating death today.
man. Well, our community lost a great man a couple days ago. Jerry Fretwell passed away.
I saw that today on Facebook. That's so sad.
Used to own Fretwell Bass downtown here in Stanton, and they actually sponsored me when I first moved back home. Hooked me up with strings and stuff. It was a great community hub. A lot of music going on down there. I was always so proud when musicians would come and visit to take them down to Fretwell Bass and
That
see
was a
that
wonderful-
wall of basses. I'd never seen anything like it anywhere else in America. It was just a museum of upright basses and the sweetest people. They gave me my first baritone ukulele, an instrument that I've now written hundreds of songs on. Completely changed my
Wow.
musical life and my songwriting life. So many songs I've written wouldn't exist without them and their support. And
Oh, that's a great story.
Jerry Fretwell,
Well,
thank
he
you
was
so
a-
much for everything.
He was a standard at Marino's, holding that bass up,
Yeah.
holding it for Lex.
Have you been to the new music shop in Waynesboro?
No, but I'm excited.
I saw they're gonna have like some jams or something up there. Like, I think it's this week.
Oh, cool.
Musicians can come and.
What's it called again?
Oh my gosh, I can't think of what it's called.
Nobody remembers the name of it.
Yeah, Daryl.
Oh, really? That's a.
The third person that's told I've heard tell about it, but they're
But
like,
they can't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
This is maybe a branding issue there. I'm gonna go to Waynesboro tomorrow to meet my mom's new puppy, and maybe I'll try to find that too while I'm at it.
Waynesboro's starting to jump, man. They got all kinds of stuff going on there.
There's a lot of buzz coming from Waynesboro way. A lot of good restaurants,
Yeah.
music venues. I don't know what they're doing right. We need to get us some of that. I mean, we have cool stuff happening here too. Finally doing something with the old Hex. That's
Yeah.
going to be a juvenile court or something. That whole,
Right. Yeah, there'll be a building in there anyway.
This will be something.
Yeah, that'll create a little flow that direction. It's something better than nothing.
That was the first job I ever had over at Hex.
Hex.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Back when you used to have leftover parts when you put together the bicycles.
You remember that?
That's what inspired that sign we got over there now.
Oh, that's right. My bike's done, mine's too. Well, I've got these parts. I've got these. So let's get rid of these so anybody, the manager sees we have leftover parts.
I just got today in the mail replacement parts for our grill out there. All the grates and the burner covers or whatever, it all just corroded. But I found some and ordered in replacement parts, and it's pretty
Wow.
satisfying. I'm excited to fire that grill up again.
Did you put them on?
I put them on. Yep.
Yeah.
I actually smoked some chicken the other day.
Perfect.
That got me back into it, but then I was like, oh man, if I don't do something about this grill now, it's just gonna, I don't know. But it got me thinking about the old philosophical idea of if you have something like this grill, if I replace every part on that grill, is it the same grill?
Well, of course not.
Of course not. But then if I replace them piece by piece, then it's a new grill, right? I could reassemble those old pieces back together and make the original grill. I guess it's not as interesting as I thought it was at first. It is a thing they do in philosophy with a ship. If you replace every part of a ship, is it the same ship?
The women like replace it like over time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like that's a important part of the equation, because if it's over time, it's a little bit different.
It is.
Yeah.
There is a variable there that has to be taken into account of the perception of what is it to say is the original one.
Right.
But if the experience is a continuous one for the main thing, yeah, you could be convinced maybe in that direction.
Right.
Especially if you're one of them damn liberals. You know those guys.
Now, how much of our bodies are the same as when we were born?
Well, isn't it like every 7 years?
I heard you lose your skin every 7 years.
Like the cells are completely different. Like
yeah.
maybe all the way through.
Now,
not our bones.
I don't know, not the bones. I mean, they're just not. Well, maybe the cells in the bones that are constantly changing, but the bone itself is chemical calcium carbonate. It's going to stay there,
Right.
hover around a little bit.
But a similar thing might be happening in our bodies, to where like after over 7 years, you're a completely new person.
Well, how about your brain?
Oh, how about
That's
your brain?
even more interesting.
Right.
Are you the same now as you were? Like, one of the things I'm thinking about people lately is that, and I do it, I think everybody does it, when you think of, if you said somebody's name from your childhood or from your past, you would go right back and create that image.
Right.
You have an image of everything, and certain things are going to pop up. So if you, like, you know, if I saw you on the stage in San Francisco, I would have a different version of Nathan Moore than if I saw you at Marino's, or drinking too much at some other bar.
Right.
But you know, people carry that with them. Well, is it change over time? But I think that one of my criticisms about people is that what we tend to do is not to change it, not to even want to change it.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you see someone every day and
Right. If you're intimate
gradually,
with them.
if you're intimate, but if you just don't see them for a year or a week or even days, you just assume they're the same.
For better or worse, they're locked in.
They're locked in.
Right.
And yeah, sometimes they're a lot worse now than, you know, but the truth is you don't really know the person now because I believe we all change every day. I think one of the things we try to do, and behaviorally, is not to change, because we are changing, and so what we're trying to do is to keep it as great as it used to be, because we want to live back in that time because we knew it and we survived it, and we knew ourselves then, but now we don't, and it's scarier and scarier. So we're trying to create things. So I want you to be like you were when we went out drinking and partying in 1970. I don't want to hear about your philosophy right now, reading Descartes and other French guys. I don't want to hear that shit. I'm through. I'm tired. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm intrigued. I feel like
Well, I think
we could
that's
drill
just
down
somewhere I went, somewhere there. But I do think
But
about
you think
that.
we don't want to change,
I think individually.
or we don't want each other to
I
change?
think my little take on it was that we know we're changing and we don't want it to change. We want to stay where we are. Now, there are things we want to change. I'm not arguing that.
Right.
I'm just saying that in tendencies of who we know we are, I think we would rather be like our friends. We would rather know us back then than whatever's going to happen tomorrow, because you could end up doing something crazy tomorrow.
It's so weird. It just blows my mind that people I talk to, like when you're young, you just want to get older and older, and you feel like, oh no, I'm old enough to drink, I'm old enough to drive, old enough to do all this stuff. But when you get older, like almost everybody I talk to, you feel like you're like 20 or 30 still. Like you can't ever believe, like, what the heck? I mean, you feel totally in your brain and everything like you're young. And I saw something on YouTube like yesterday. It was this woman walking with a little kid going into a store, and she goes, I wonder how people judge me being a teenage mom. Then I realized I'm 35 years old, because you just feel like you're a kid
Right.
all the time.
I get that.
But it's like, how come your brain doesn't keep up with your body? Like, it's almost like you said you want to stay where you know what was going on, and not that I had any idea what was going on when I was young, but like you said, you know what happened back then, so it was like it's a safe time.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is creating a world that we can abide. Not necessarily thrive, but it just abide. So I have to do some things in reality to make it seem like it.
I have such a mixed bag with that. For me, like there's, especially as I get older or whatever, there's so many aspects of me when I was younger that I can't stand now. I look back and I'm like, God, why were you like that? There's a lot of parts about a younger version of myself that I don't like, that I'm glad are over. But then there's these other parts about my younger self that I miss dearly. Like, oh my goodness, I give anything to have that fire back, or that kind of. But to me, it's very complicated.
Yeah, well,
that
I think
conversation.
that's a beautiful thought, and I think it's so true that it's a mixed bag. It's a bag of you, and some of that's going to be stuff you like, but some of that stuff you don't like is the very thing some other person might be attracted to.
Right.
It's crazy like that too.
It is so complicated.
But you have to deal with your own feelings first. I think you have to like yourself before you can expect other people to. But so that's what you're talking about, is the things you do. But that's one of the key things about, getting older, is that ability that you have to develop to survive, is to forgive yourself.
Which is easier said than done.
It's easier said than done. It's so true. And what that involves is, in other words, easier to teach it than it is to feel it. It's easy to think it than it is to feel it. But to really let go.
It's very easy to do for somebody else.
Exactly.
Way easier.
I can see it in I taught kids, and I have so many of them that said, I was such an asshole at 17. I said, that was your job. That was part of growing up. You had to be that guy for a
Right.
while, but that doesn't mean that's who you are, and that doesn't mean that's who I remember either.
Right.
And so, you know, I was very forgiving in that because I was an asshole. But that didn't happen till later. I was a nice guy earlier. my
was such
my asshole period came later.
He was such a nice young man. What happened?
Yeah, that's what happened to me. That's where I went.
I was laughing when I went and saw Margie. You know, I got there at 4 o'clock in the morning. We hang out, have some drinks, you know, smoke a little bit. And we go upstairs, we get in bed, and she was putting some music on. And, you know, whatever, you know, we're just messing around. And then I hear Nathan's voice. And I'm like, are you playing Nathan's music? She said, yeah. I was like, oh, that's not making me comfortable. I could just imagine you sitting there on the bed. I was like, no, you got to turn that off. And she started laughing. I said, I'm serious, turn that off. I don't want to listen. It was like,
It's a classic
I was
moment.
like, man, if I'm sitting down here, if I'm elsewhere and I hear his voice, I love it, but I just don't want to hear it right
All right,
now.
I'm declaring this a classic Jabber Jawn moment. This is one that it was back in what is it, number 35. I want to see that.
But when she was laughing, she goes, he's got so many good songs. Like, I agree, change that shit. We got to move on. Come on.
Oh Lordy.
Oh man. So what? Do you have any forgiving yourself tips?
Well, I don't want to sound preachy or anything.
No, do you ever really forgive or you just accept?
What's the difference?
Yeah.
Is there a difference?
I would say both. I think when you accept, unless you're a Catholic or something, I'm just joking, but unless you're really into that, I think they're the same thing.
I do think that, I mean, you tapped on something there that I do think that's one of the great appeals of Christianity and probably all religions, is that it is so hard to forgive yourself, but Christianity offers you if you come clean with the Lord, if you confess your sins, you're absolved of them by an external force.
Yeah, and I think that works for some people.
And I feel like
Yeah.
more people struggle with this thing that we're talking about than anybody could ever.
I guess it's something everybody has to deal with on some level. And some people have a lot of time invested in thinking about it and trying to decide which way to go with it, but you're right. But yeah, I always think in terms of teaching and learning, and that was one of my big things about in education, is you have to be comfortable with losing, with being wrong. And that's all part of what we're talking about. You were making mistakes, and there are reasons why you made them, and you just were wrong. You know, you might have been right, but you were right about some things, but you made mistakes, and that's just part of growing up. And once you absorb that as part of the learning process, I think you can figure it out for yourself. I mean, all the great minds, all the smart people, that books I read in the 70s said that same thing. You just have to learn to forgive yourself in that way, to realize it's just part of the process of, it doesn't make you who you are, it led to who you are. It helped form who you are. And you just looked at it as it's just another mistake. Not only does it give you the confidence to be yourself still and not be down on yourself, but you're not down on other people either. Because you can see that everybody does that, you know. And somebody says something drunken to me at a bar or a party, and I can pass it off a lot easier, understanding that in my heart that I don't have to change anything.
Right.
You know, let it go.
Right.
So I think that's all good energy.
Now, how much do you think forgiving ourselves is like, you know, I'm the prime example of this. Whenever I go out, I think everybody's looking at me. I feel, you know, I look bad. Everybody's, and then I go and probably not a person even noticed I was there. How much time do you think we're forgiving ourselves for stuff that nobody else even remembers or anybody else ever knows about? That
Yeah.
we've held on to, but like nobody else would even.
Well, I think it depends a lot on your age, what we call growth and development. I think it's where you are along the path, be another way to look at it. But when you first start out, you're just all the time, you know.
How are those connected to you in terms of forgiving yourself and feeling like people are looking at you?
Just like how like when I go out, I feel like, not that I feel important, but when I walk into a room, like if I go to a party, I don't know anybody, I'm like, everybody here is looking at me. Let me just find some place to go stand and hope nobody will notice me. Probably nobody even noticed I walked into the room, but I feel like, every head turned when I walked in. But it's just like you take on, or I do, just you take on this like paranoia, or, just, oh my God, please just let me blend in. Let me find somebody I know so I can go stand beside them and talk, know. And I wonder like how much stuff that I personally, like we're talking about forgive ourselves, that is it something that, like what makes me hang on to that besides something else that I did? What, I haven't forgiven myself for stuff that really is not even that bad. It's just stuff that just bothers you.
Yeah.
But is it like, does anybody even care that I did that? If I admitted that to somebody, they'd be like, what are you talking about? Nobody wants to hear these boring stories. I mean, it's just weird how what the brain and this, your mind and everything holds on to.
Well, yeah. Yes, you do.
It seems like there's got to be like a, I don't know, maybe I mean, there's so many people in this world that are struggling with this in levels that we can't even comprehend. Like people that have been in a war situation, there are people that have killed people that have to forgive themselves in order to move on, and it's like, how do you do that? Like, how it seems like it would just haunt you forever. But like, if they ever want to make amends to the world, or not have that be their legacy, or if they want to make up for it, or whatever it is, like but it seems like there's some things that I don't know.
Well, you're tapping into a really strong area there when you're looking at what is it, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
Yeah, when you have that type of negative experience in your life, and that your mind is trying to control that and not let it override you and overwhelm you, and you build this wall, and that's that thing. And it's just it's hard to build walls and be the same, So, you'd like to think that you would come to the point where you could face it, and not dwell on it, but just take it. That happened, but that's not the most important thing about life, and grow and move on. And I just think it's just a hard battle, obviously, for a lot of people. Yeah.
And it's probably not like a moment where like, oh, I finally forgave myself today. Like it's a process.
That's a good point. I think it comes over time. Epiphanies are fun. It's a wonderful word. Could we just all say that?
Epiphanies.
Have you ever had it? What is it?
Epiphany.
What was it?
Epiphany.
There you go. I like it. It's a nice word.
It is a very nice word.
Popeye had one.
That's where I was going. I didn't know where I was going. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Popeye.
Popeye.
I watch a lot of these true crime shows, and this people say this all the time, and I just can't believe this is true. Like there'll be, the parents get to speak to the killer or whatever and said, I am going to forgive you so I can move on, otherwise you'll haunt me forever. I'm like, how do you ever forgive somebody? I mean, you have to be the most strongest person in the world to forgive somebody for doing like that. If they killed your wife or your kids or something.
Well, you know, in some ways, I think I could argue that, and I just don't think you have to give them that much credit. I don't think they're a human being. They were a malfunctioning human being that did something evil.
Right.
That's all you're getting out of me.
Right.
I'm not going to spend the love and the energy that I have in my body worrying about you anymore.
Well, that's what they say, but I'm thinking that would have a hard time doing that.
Well, I think you have to go to live.
Oh, well, that's what they're saying the same thing you are. I'm not going to sit at home and dry rot worrying about you.
I never quite. I mean, it's a very similar thing. Whether it's forgiving somebody else or forgiving yourself, it's like, it's the way to move on. It's the way to not be frozen in that spot, in that place, in that point in time. Like that's basically what you're saying. Like I'm releasing you from the bond of hatred,
Right.
or whatever, because I don't want to be stuck in that place.
Right.
Right. Well said.
Well, what's the saying? It's like a great something like hate or whatever. It's like just carrying a burden that nobody else even knows you're carrying. If somebody did something to you, just let it go. Don't walk around with that weight in your mind for the rest of your life. You know, it's just a waste of time laying in bed thinking about that person.
I agree.
Man, we're getting deep in here now.
That is always a powerful moment in the movie or whatever.
Right.
The I forgive you moment or whatever. And when you see, like, there's so many, it's an archetypal scene where the person that did the terrible thing breaks down at that moment.
Right.
Like, they are just like, they often start crying, or just like, just by the weight lifted off the person that's doing the forgiving. It's a heavy moment. And there's something beautiful about it. You feel the grace within it. You're just like, it, on a heart level, it makes sense. Even if I can't get my head around it, you're like, yeah, that had to happen or something. But then again, there's justice. On the other side, there's justice. Forgiving them doesn't mean you don't want them free or whatever. Like, you know, you want justice to be served. That's the other side of the equation of forgiveness to a certain extent.
Yeah, well, you know, I believe in justice.
Right. So can you forgive?
And I'm at your service.
Can you forgive yourself? Like, I don't think a person that's been. Wait, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, it's an earlier joke.
What was it?
He sounds like martial law over here. I believe in justice, and I am at your service. I'm a badass.
I
like that.
I had said on the porch when he picked me up, or I walked down, I told him that I said at your service when he came to the door. And I said, that's the second time I had used the line earlier. And now that was the third time you said at your service. So I went there.
But I wonder
But it fit into the idea that, yes, I will be happy to administer justice on your sorry ass.
Justice is an important part of the equation. And maybe that's one of the problems with self-forgiveness. Like in the case you were just talking about with true crime and stuff, justice has been served on some level, and then the forgiveness.
Right.
Like, you're going to spend the rest of your life in jail, and I forgive you. It's not like, I forgive you, so let this man go.
Right.
You know, like, that's not the
No,
the energy.
that doesn't have to be part of
So a lot of times, maybe a problem people have with forgiving themselves is that there was never, that the justice
Oh, that's a good point.
hasn't happened.
You didn't pay the penalty for what you did.
Right.
Oh, gosh, you're getting to a good part.
It's a good
there.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you see people that punish themselves in weird ways too, and you're like, why are you doing that? I mean, maybe they're dealing with.
Maybe they're dispensing their own justice to hopefully someday forgive themselves once they've. But it's so dangerous because
You know, it's
you might punish yourself so much that you'll never be able to forgive yourself. You weaken yourself.
yeah. I lost my train of thought. Sorry,
It's all right.
we're off the tracks.
That is weird. I never thought about that. So you just said it like it's so. Maybe,
Oh, I know what I wanted to say. I'm sorry. I think probably part of our problem is defining forgiveness. I think we're putting more connotation in there than I would want in there when I say I forgive you. It's it sounds too nice. What I'm saying is I'm not letting you in anymore. I don't know if there's a different
But
word for
but that's not always true. Like if
No.
you forgave me for something I did against you, like
But I'd have to.
you would still
it-
want me
I
in
would
your
have
life.
to, but I would have to say that. Maybe I'm looking for a word before I say forgiveness to an enemy, to someone
An
I don't.
enemy is different.
Yeah. You know, so I'm not forgiving you, but I'm letting go of you. That's what I would want to say most of the time.
Right.
Because forgiving, you don't really have much control over that. Well, you've alluded to that already when you start talking about the emotions and right and wrong and judging what that person has done that deserves your attention and how he's treated you in your life. And all those are valid things that you have to measure when you're making that call.
yeah, maybe like what you're talking about. You're not forgiving them, but you're releasing them from the turmoil they're causing you inside.
Exactly.
I am no longer. You're not forgiven, but I'm not gonna worry about what you did to me
Yeah,
anymore.
I'm cutting you off.
You know?
Float away.
The app crashed entirely, so people are probably not even hearing us yet. Right now, we are back live. Right? Yeah, we are back live.
Do you know when we left? Or was
That's my next question. I want to ask that question, but people need to relog in on to the stream to hear it. But what I want to ask, what was the last thing you heard to someone in the chat? But here, I'll
Say that again.
I'll blast out. Hey, we're back. What was the last thing we said?
Mr. Moore was showing his chest tattoos again.
There was a topic passed through a while ago. Tattoos went through my head. You were
Yeah.
talking about not wanting to stick out when you went into the bar. You wanted to
Right.
blend in.
Right.
And I was going to say something stupid like, well, is that why you don't have any tattoos? And then you think, well, you know, if I had said that, all the tattooed people in the world would have been, you know, offended or defended or, you know, they would be, what's he talking
Ears
about?
would perk up.
What's he saying? What's he saying about my tattoo?
None of us have tattoos, huh? You
I
know?
don't have any tattoo.
Maybe we should get a Jabberjawn tattoo.
Well, I
We should all go in there together. That'd be a
Yeah.
fun little off-campus episode.
Yeah, sure would. It sure would.
What would it be? All right, Kether says we weren't out too long. Thank you, guys. Well, we're back.
Yeah, we're back.
Lex hit a button and it all crashed, and you know what we did? We forgave him.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're moving on.
We're moving on.
I don't know about that.
Dad's still holding on a little bit.
I don't think you counted all the votes yet. But
Jury's still out.
What, now,
whatever he says,
when you were over there, we were talking. How come, you know, not specifically you two, but he could say something to me or do something to me, and I would just laugh it off, and then you could do it, and I'd be like, "That's the rudest." Like, what determines that?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Same action done by two different people, but one hurts you and one doesn't.
yeah. Well, everybody's got a different relationship with everybody else. So everything, anything that happens comes out of that particular relationship that you have.
Right.
So y'all have, if I've, grown up, we've grown up together talking like trashy, and
Right.
or if I met you in college, and so I expect one level of conversation from you and
Right.
from you.
I was thinking about that in terms of like other things, in terms of how friends give each other grief all the time. Just like make fun of each other, tease each other. It's but like you, no matter what, you're an elder. Like you're my father, but you're also his teacher, and so there's a different role. Not that we're not also friends, and that's true, and you can give us grief and everything, but there is a different dynamic because you're an elder, and in that sense, there's always going to be a little bit of that in the dynamic of how we interplay. Like,
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
so like, if I don't know, if Dad said something and you said something, it could be the same thing, but he's my dad.
Right.
I carry a lot more emotional baggage than you do, young man. I am loaded up.
but he's calling you an elder, even though we realize you're still 30 inside. I'm still 30, and he's still 30.
Well, this is from my point of view. One of the interesting things about, I think, my person is that I have never been very good at judging age. If I taught you, you could be 30 to 60, literally,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm thinking you're all kids.
Right, right.
You're just, and then I see the ones with they have grandchildren and they have their own children doing things. It's wonderful to see, but to me they're all 17. They're all they're all high school kids.
Right.
And that's what I remember, and but when I deal with 5-year-olds, see, I have that thing. I talk to 5-year-olds the same way I do 55-year-olds, because I just think people are people,
Right.
and you have more experience, but you can still listen and hear what I'm saying,
Right.
or you don't. And that doesn't have anything to do with age.
Right.
That's your attitude or how interesting I am. But yeah, so I don't have an age issue to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I am feeling very old, but also very young every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't feel that much different.
You probably always felt like an elder to a certain, not when you were a kid or whatever, but because of your profession, being a mentor, teacher.
Yeah, it's like which chicken or egg, what you feel like. I do think I think it might have been the way I was brought up. I was brought up in a little bit of an isolated area with just about 10 people in my world, and they were all in love. We all loved each other, and
You talking about friends?
I'm talking about Hillcrest family and friends.
Mm-hmm.
The Cooks and the Moores, and we all moved here, and we were all a product of DuPont, by the way. A lot of these neighborhoods were DuPont families.
Right.
That's interesting.
It is interesting, and they were, in other words, DuPont, Swainsboro all the way, but they were moving to Stanton and commuting even back then.
Mm-hmm.
They saw what was going on. Waynesburg's been trying to catch up ever since.
Yeah.
They're doing a good job.
They're doing a good job.
Good on them. But,
But for you, like you went, like when you were a kid in Hillcrest, you and all your peers were definitely the kids, and then you had the adults,
Right.
that were the elders. But then when you cross, so there's almost like this. I know it's on a spectrum, but there's this line, feasibly, that you would cross at some point from being the kid to being one of the elders. And for you, that was sort of more marked than for somebody like me, because you began teaching. So all the kids were like, "Yes, sir, Mr. Moore." You know, you were being, that was your role. So I mean, you had a kid yourself. Like, I never had a kid. I never had a job where I would be expected for the youngsters to listen to my authority or respect my position or any of that.
Yeah, the one thing is that there's a big issue in that area was my coaching, because I went from being a player to watching other people play, and
And to being a coach.
And, well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, right.
When I went to being to coaching, you're involved with the game, but you're not playing anymore. And that's definitely a line of demarcation. I was still playing softball and things like that, but I wasn't able to play high school ball anymore. And but that was my way of staying involved, was to umpire.
Right.
But coaching was where you really got to know the kids on a certain level, and they remember you for that time period. That was interesting.
Right.
Whereas me, on the other hand, I distinctly remember being completely shocked and appalled when sometime in my early 40s, someone called me sir or mister, or like it was a cashier. They're like, I was like, what? You know, like I hated it. And I was like, you know, whereas when he was in his 20s, if you didn't call him Mr. Moore, that was a sign of disrespect. Like, the whole institution's going to fall apart. Like, how about you? Did you ever cross a line into adulthood, or?
No, but something happened yesterday at work that was sort of what we're talking about. The owner of the business I work with is within like a year my age, and I was talking to another lady at work, and she was gonna explain to the boss something that I was gonna do. And I said, "Oh, don't do it. You don't have to worry about it. I'll do it." She's like, "No, I want her to know you're doing it." And I said, and totally with just the way my brain works, I said, "She's gonna think that kid, all that kid wants to do is goof off." And I thought, why am I calling myself a kid? she doesn't look at me as a kid. We're two adults. But I'm like, no, I don't want her to think this kid is like, lazy. And as soon as I said it, I was like, God, what's going on in my brain? I'm thinking like I'm still, everybody here sees me as the fresh young 19-year-old in here, And they're like, it's just weird the way your brain still holds those,
But don't worry, if you're at the bar, they won't recognize.
Unless you get that tattoo that we're all gonna get.
Unless you get the tattoo.
I do. Sometimes it takes me by, and I don't know why I always want to say, you don't have to call me sir. It's almost like a sign of respect that I almost feel like, please, we're exactly the same. We're both 22 working at 7-Eleven. You don't need to call me sir. But I agree, I still, Bill and all them, it's like, why do you call him Mr. Moore? I said, because he was Mr. Moore. I said,
well, that's what you called him what you first called him. Usually.
Yeah, so they're always like, they make a fun of me.
Do you still call him Mr. Moore?
Whenever I talk about it, I was like, Mr. Moore, we did me and Mr. Moore. So the woman that feeds the birds at work was leaving. She's not going to be there tomorrow. She said, will you feed the birds? I said, I'll bring Mr. Moore. He'll do it. He loves the birds.
I'd love to go down there and feed your birds. Check out all those birds you work with. You sound like you got some interesting people down there.
That damn kid's bringing Mr. Moore in here with him. I don't know. No, I've never had any situation either where I was, I'm just not, I would not want to have to lead anybody or do anything. When we went to, I was telling him we went to Liberty State Park, me and Margie and her kids, and I was just running around, and these kids were all like hanging out with me and stuff, and just kids we didn't know, I was doing goofy stuff, and I was like, I said to Margie, the kids always want to come to me. She goes, because you act just like a damn kid. Like, they're probably looking at you like, look at that big ass grown kid, out there. Well, although the parents, sitting there, like probably just relaxing, like, oh my God, the kids are on the slide. I can relax. And I'm at the side, like, come on down, like. But like you said, not having kids or I've never had to, Cause like my brother will do stuff. I'm like, how do you even know? How do you know how to do that, or how did you stand up and do that? He's like, man, as a parent, you gotta do this stuff all the time. Every day something comes up where you're like, if I don't do it, the ship's sinking, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, I just would swim and paddle to shore and hope.
I always had like a romanticism for the wise old man role. That I always wanted to be a wise old man. Like that's like look at Mark Twain or Whitman or something. Like, oh man, I just want to be like the gray-haired dude with great stories that people come to with questions and I have answers or whatever. But then God cursed me with this like complete Peter Pan thing. Like I'm just like we've been talking about. Like I wish I could remember it. I already know what song I'd sing at the end, but I don't remember all the words. But it's like, there goes that plan of being a wise old man. Because the closer I get to where I thought that would become a reality, the further it seems like it's ever going to be from my grasp. I don't know.
Well, being a performer, you have sort of a, people. Like whenever I talk to anybody that a musician that I like, I'm always sort of nervous and think that they're a step above me or something. You must have to deal with that a lot.
Just like
Like if you meet some fan after a show or something, they come up to you, hey, and you can't tell they're nervous, or can you?
Right. Yeah, but that wasn't the dream of the wise old man thing, that they would be nervous or whatever.
My dream wasn't to make people nervous.
I didn't want people fawning.
What you
or
should do then, if they come say something, you should just say, I'm at your service.
Right. Well, that's true. That's
It's
actually
quite
true.
often the only thing you have to say.
Right. Right.
To make them nervous.
Now, there's a country song there now. That's the first two lines of a country song.
Either of you watched the Republican debate last night?
I forgot,
I've read a lot about it.
You read a lot about
and
it.
I haven't even checked it out.
They started
You want
off.
to give us a report?
They started off the whole thing by playing a clip of that country song that's gone viral, the Oliver Anthony. And I just as a sidebar, I want to say that I remember when I first saw this happening with Trump, where suddenly mainstream media was profane. Like there's a curse word in the song, and they just blared it out. I'm just like, what has happened to us? Like, I don't even know why this young punk is upset by that, which is a more interesting thing we could drill down on. When did I become so conservative? But just to be watching the Republican debate and hear you're working overtime hours for bullshit pay or whatever it was, and just being blared out. They were like, that's how they started the whole debate. Well, Oliver Anthony has this hit song that's gone viral. They start playing the song. There's the profanity, and then they're like, so what do you guys think about this? It's just like, oh my gosh, this is fascinating. But so they started with that, and then I don't know. I watched the whole thing. I don't know if
Now, do you get emotionally caught up in it? That's what I can't watch it because just basically because I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that they say, but I just get like, oh my God, you're so wrong, or not necessarily wrong, but your views are so different than me. I'd like to sit back and read it just so I can,
Right.
But I was reading about when they asked Christie about UFOs,
Right.
and he gave something like, "Are you asking me that? Because I'm from New Jersey." Or something.
Right. That was definitely a funny moment. I don't know. There's this. Well, I don't know which part of that would y'all want to drill down on, if any of it. We could always move
Well,
on.
what'd you think of it? Did any of them seem like if they won, they would be somebody to be behind?
Well, definitely some of them scared me less than, like, Chris Christie is a likable person who doesn't scare the hell out of me.
Right.
Nikki Haley sort of seemed like a little.
No,
but-
she did well, I heard.
Mm-hmm. And then there's, like Vivek is like this terrifying dude who's also
Was that the young guy?
he's the young guy,
billionaire, whatever.
and he seemed to have the a lot of young people in the audience making a lot of noise, which is a weird dynamic to the whole thing, like a little strategic move.
What would you say is the average age? Is it? It's not like Trump and Biden, but is it like 20 years younger or what?
Of from Trump and of the candidates.
Yeah. Is it like, are we getting back down to the like they wouldn't be retired if they were?
I don't. That's a good question. Vivek definitely seemed young compared to everybody else.
Right.
DeSantis, I guess, is the only Gen Xer.
Okay.
What's the Boomers? Is that the one before Gen X? I guess it was a lot of Boomers.
Mm-hmm.
One Gen Xer and one Millennial. But
Now, did you think it was did the questions make sense, and did it get down to real subjects, or was it just a bunch of back and forth nonsense?
It was more interesting than just
Right.
back and forth nonsense, definitely to a certain extent.
Those people, the pressure they're under too they can't give a really honest answer. They have to give an answer that's going to sell the product. They can't just, they can't say what they would really do.
Right.
Because you don't really know what you would do. There'd be,
That is a sad part about it, because I feel like no one can really be honest.
Right.
And everybody's playing a game. And they might have a more nuanced, more complicated view of something, but that would be suicidal in
Right.
politics if they admitted it. So there's certain things, no matter who you are, that you're not allowed to say. Whether it's liberal or they all probably, because they're complex human beings, probably have beliefs convictions that they can't express
Right.
because it would be political suicide. And that's a very interesting conundrum. Like, why is that where we are? That people...
Now, do you think that's why Trump is so popular? Because he just says whatever nutball idea rolls into his head.
That's a
now?
huge reason why he's so popular. Yeah.
So people would rather hear any nonsense you have to say than have a good
People-
thought-out answer. What he says is all crazy, but at least he told the truth of what he thought.
Right. I mean, there is something refreshing about that. I feel like anybody that did that right now would... That's why I'm surprised more people aren't doing it. I don't know why people aren't... That there aren't more characters in the running that, for better or worse, if that's their death nail, that they're just saying what they think
Right.
anyways, as opposed to every single person very selectively and strategically choosing what they admit to. Or
Now, was Trump, was he discussed at all, or they pretty much just avoided that him?
A little of both.
Because I've read it'd be suicide for any of them to come out and really I guess for Christie, that's how he's trying to climb
Right,
his
Chris
way
Christie
up.
is the only one that's full on anti-Trump.
Which, like you said, it sort of makes me like him a little bit more. I mean, I don't know what his politics are, but at least he is saying what he's letting something off his chest at least. Like all of us up here have to know what Trump is not acting like a normal politician now. But none of y'all are going to say it because then you'll lose all the votes.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen this guy Vivek yet? Ramaswamy. He's the young millennial, and he's like one of the most disarming and alarming personalities I've seen in a while. He's like a young Indian. His parents were immigrants from India, and then he's a self-made billionaire with these companies that he started. He's probably in his early 30s or something. But but then when you start getting into like what he wants, he wants to do away with the FBI, the Department of Education, the CDC, all these federal institutions. He wants to put our army at the southern border, completely militarize the border with Mexico, and have our army there, like pull out of any support of like Ukraine and all that kind of stuff. He wants every kid to have to pass an American test, like the same kind of test an immigrant has to pass to become a citizen or something, in order to be able to vote.
So this is all stuff he was mentioning last night, or you just read about it? Wow.
Yeah, and he's all over social media. He's all over YouTube. He's the young one, so he's like savvy when it comes to being on all the podcasts and all this kind of stuff. And it's just sort of like,
What's his name?
Vivek Ramaswamy. And he's
Which is that? Last name is the Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy. Yep.
Ramaswamy.
Ramaswamy.
I'll go check him out. I'll Google him.
He's
No, he was, I can't remember the exact word you used, alarming or something, but he's alarming because of what he says or the way he says it. Like he has, like you can tell he's got something cranking away at his head that's not.
there's something going on there. Like I feel like in his dream of dreams, that I don't know. It's a little. I don't want to say too much, but it's sort of antichristy.
Right.
like I don't know. He wants to lead a revolution that is very, very right wing, very, very religious, very, fundamentalist, very militarized. He wants three armed guards in every school. That's his answer for school shootings and stuff. So there's but I mean,
But see, a lot of people are probably buying that.
absolutely, he's second in the race at the moment.
No, how did Pence seem? Like a beaten
Oh,
dog,
God.
or just a wet rag? Or
Yeah.
Feeble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could feel the air getting sucked out of the room every time he tried to speak.
time to go. No, it's still going. Oh crap! I thought it was over with. Why is he even running, man? He's
Well, I think he's definitely a man of conviction, and he deserves our gratitude for doing the right thing when it came down to it. He could have sided with Trump and everything for the last election. I don't know, but he's a very convicted man. Like he's which, because we disagree with things, makes him someone I would never vote for. But I respect him actually being true to his beliefs. Like he's a very deep fundamentalist, kind of traditional Christian or whatever. So
yeah. I don't view him as out trying to take over the world. I just think he
Right.
would want to be. I just have that mental image of him with that fly on his head. Like, oh my God,
Right.
that nobody told him. Like he's got so little. His helpers have so little respect for him. Nobody said, "Get someone in your head." They ride out having a fly on his head.
The things we remember.
But in that term, I can't remember what he even said. He's up there talking. You're just like,
that fly.
oh my God.
Well,
Yeah,
where are we in terms of the bird?
Oh goodness, time really got away from
That's
us.
what I was afraid of. I don't think we have time for the bird.
No, we have time for the bird. bird, surfing bird.
And he's got one of people's favorite birds he was going to talk about tonight. He gave me a sneak peek at the bird.
I was just catching up on the chats. It's good to see everybody out there. Sorry, I realized from past shows that the more I read the chats, the more I lose touch with this conversation. Lex and all of us are going to work as time goes, and we really get the whole new machine running here. That Lex might end up being our our voice, the ambassador to the chats or whatever, relaying some stuff. We get a mic on him, and he can help us keep up with that, so you guys can be more of a part of the conversation.
Every time Nathan looks down at his phone to read the chats, me and Miss Moore view him as pence. They're just like, oh, boy.
But it's so fun to see all your faces here in the chat. Thanks for tuning in, and we definitely have time for the bird. What bird did you bring us?
I'm thinking I need to tell a story
Okay.
instead of the bird.
All right. Is it not a bird story?
No.
Okay.
It's just where my brain just went because of Lex. What was that song you were saying, Lex?
Bird is the word.
Yep. Can you give me a little bit of that? Bapa oo mau mau. All right. Now, when he did that, that set off in me an incident that happened when I was 15 years old. I was in Greg Boziak's house. They lived on Hillcrest over the hill down there over there. And Rick Cook and I were down there, and Tim and Greg, the brother, Boziak boys. And we were listening to a new couple of 45s that one of them had. So we were back in there, and we were just hanging out after school, waiting for ball practice, and just fooling around, playing music. And they had the 45 over there. And one of them put on that song. It was The Bird. And the bird is away. And I hated that song. It was by the Trashmen, and I would get nauseous every time it would come on because they played it on the radio all the time. I just hated it. It just drove me crazy. And everybody in the room knew that. And somebody put it on there. And about the third song, I was listening to the Beatles, Love Me Do, and it fell down. And the next one came down, and it was Papa Who Mau Mau. And now somebody had done that to me because they knew I didn't want to hear that song, and they put it on there. So I played it cool, and we joked around. And then a little bit later, I went over there, and they were all looking at the magazine and everything. They were all bent over looking at something, and I went over, and I just took the Trashman record at 45, and I just pressed my thumb down real hard, and I broke the record.
Broke the record.
Well, yeah, I did, and I did it on purpose. It was probably one of the nastiest things I ever did.
Have you ever forgiven yourself for that?
The next day he was
Oh, no, this went...
dialing that.
Well, so what happened was I slipped back over and got all the way on the other side of the room, back in the corner over there, and somebody was going on putting the records up, and they looked at it. What in the world? And they put the record on, and it skipped because it was broken. And I said, well, there's only one explanation. Rick Cook did it. And this went on for 4 or 5 years. I had convinced the Boziak that Rick Cook, it was so good. I was so proud of myself. And Rick and I would be alone together, and I would, just dig in a little bit, Papa Who Mau Mau. And it was like, one day it was like we were seniors, I think. That was probably when we were sophomores. We were seniors one day in the library. We came in there, and I went ahead and told them that I had done it. That's the story. All that came flowing back in when he said Papa Who Mau Mau.
But that's not, everybody knows that song. I mean, that's like...
Well, it continued to haunt me. But
Well, I remember when I was in high school, suddenly our class had this new kid that just moved to Stanton, and he was a new kid. I wish we should get him on the phone to get this story better, but I feel like, well, his real name is Chris King, but we all call him Chris King.
I
Remember
know,
Chris?
I know Chris. I'm
Right.
a Facebook friend. I know what you're. I can't think of.
He's a
his
bird man.
man.
Bird, basically bird. And I feel like this song is part of that origin story, but I
know.
can't remember what it exactly. I don't think he was singing this song all the time.
I hope not.
But he was calling everybody bird, and we just turned it on him. It's like he was like, "Hey, bird." But I feel like he got that because of his dad playing this song. I'm going to call him up. And I'll get more information. on
Report
that.
back.
Right.
I would be curious.
Well, that's all we got, folks. Well, I guess it's time for a leaving song. Boy, I thought of 3 good ones during the course of this conversation, but the 3 that I thought of that I really love to play, I don't think I remember well enough to pull off.
So you're going to number 4.
I guess.
So we're getting your 4th best.
I know
And
it's.
getting the
Damn.
I need to.
sloppy leftovers.
I've been doing some work on this guitar lately. It's not one that I've played very. This is the one I won in Telluride for Troubadour of the Year,
Oh, wow.
the Troubadour competition at the Telluride Bluegrass Festival in 2009. I won that thing. It's a national competition, and this is the guitar that I won for that. But
That's amazing.
but the action was always so high, and I just never
remember
really
I was out
played it
there.
that much. You were there for that?
Well, there was something that you recognized right after it. Not the Telluride itself, but
Right.
right after it, there was some festival that you were.
In Santa Fe?
I'm not sure. Somewhere right there.
I wish I could. What I need to do is go back through all the episodes and see which songs I've already played, just because I know it's not that big a deal if I repeat myself, but I don't want to do it. I've written enough songs that this could be a place for them to uniquely live.
Maybe Jabberjawn, we can get some money together and hire someone, because I want them to go back through and tell me which number goes with which bird.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
Same reasoning. I don't want to repeat that either.
Today, for the first time, which I might want to go back and do this as well, but I'm going to keep doing it from here on out, was I took your Facebook post, and it's the description. It's in the description. The text is in the description. So you can be reading that, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, or wherever it is. And I've never done it before, but I'm going to do it every time now because it's so good. So when you go to the YouTube, right now, if you're looking at the description, it's what you wrote on Facebook is right there.
Cool.
Oh, goodness. You were talking about train of thoughts earlier, but I feel like I've probably done that one before.
May have.
If I just had a woman here to make out with while you play.
This is gonna make you sexy time. This is gonna get awkward.
Lex,
The inverse.
makeup.
Can you dim the lights just a little bit more?
Oh, you play some sexy saxophone?
Yeah, and throw that dummy over here.
Oh God! All right, I'm out. This is a song I wrote one day that when Dad was in a he was depressed, and something had happened. I think it was an exchange on Facebook or something, just really sort of threw him. He got into a fight on Facebook, and it really upset him, and he just wanted to quit all of it. It's all stupid, and he was just all kinds of upset. And I was like, I want to write him a song to cheer him up. And I even had friends that came with me to sing it for him the first time. We all learned the chorus together. And so I went through all this, to try to cheer Dad up. And wrote the song, taught everybody the song. We all got in the car, drove into town, and went to perform it for him. We walk in the house, and I'll be daggone if he hadn't already cheered himself up. He was in a fine mood. It had all been resolved. I've never been so upset in my life. It's like, you son of a... There are those that will hate to see us shine, 'cause it reminds them of the blindness they've embraced. And they will talk you down all around town, and then laugh and be all friendly face to face. But that don't mean nothing. No, that's just nothing but mean. I mean, we all hate to feel small. Sometimes we make it all smaller, till it's all too small to even be seen. Hey, 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 don't be tricked by that train. It's not about to make any sudden turns. And there truly is a sage inside that grows with age, and there truly is a child who never learns. And you may try to glorify the stories of your youth, but in that you're bound to fall short. Some may try to claim there is no glory to the truth, but it's always as a sad last resort. I mean, you'd have to be a pretty brilliant writer to even half describe the grace that you've displayed. And you'd have to be a pretty stubborn fighter to try to tackle all the nonsense that comes our way. Hey, 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 don't be tricked by that train. It's not about to make any sudden turns. And if your candle's lit at both ends, I'd say toss it to the fire and warm your hands above it as it burns. Woo! I see a red moon getting sucked into a mountain, and a bright blue brand new breaking day. And I never knew quite on how many hands you were counting, or just what you were about to say. But when I heard you were thinking about closing the place and hanging that dreaded awful sign, I just knew it was a bad idea. Shouldn't forget, I started thinking about something else and I lost the line. Knew it was a bad idea. You shouldn't forget what you have. Let's not forget though. Forget what you have just because you might not have it to forget on down the line. Hey, 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 don't be tricked by that train. It's not about to make any sudden turns. And on the other hand, I'm certain wisdom wiggles in your palm like a dirty fishing worm.
Nice, nice.
It was the perfect ending song in there.
It is,
I started
wow.
thinking about something from the conversation earlier, and it just took my brain just a little bit out of the groove, and I think I still didn't remember exactly what that line was.
Yeah.
You shouldn't you shouldn't blank what you have because you might not have it to miss. You shouldn't miss what you have just because you might not have it to miss on down the line. Okay, I'm satisfied now. Thank you so much for watching. Love you all. See you next time.
Have a good week.
Go for it.
Keep Jabberjawn.
Three little frogs sitting on a log. One of them fell in.
There was a lot of good ones that tied into the conversation. I forgot. I didn't realize that when I started.
Yeah, that's true. That's perfect. Looks like we were talking around that song the whole night.
Yeah. got into that, started getting on cruise control there and thinking about the conversation we just had, especially like the debate and what people were saying in the comment section. Politics is such a quagmire, right?
Couple thoughts there, but one is